Okay. Other topic if we want.
What's that?
I don't know, I'm trying to see what we got here to work with.
I will say Obama really, for me, pissed me off with his inaugural address, and
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either. But I read some of the transcript after I heard some news reports. But the definition of liberty is subject to debate, like specifically the pursuit of happiness, paraphrased, equaling equal outcome or equal results. And that's sick.
That's the guarantee of happiness, not the pursuit of happiness.
God, I can't believe it. I was like, and people are trying to liken him to Reagan. I'm sorry, Obama will never be as a massive mover as Reagan. Reagan, on his second election, I think won all states but one. And I think he is the title holder for all the Electoral College points. Oh, and you don't want to get me started on the gun thing either. Oh my God, I will go all... Oh.
The only thing I'm going to say on that is an executive order, by nature of its power, is not unconstitutional. Because
he actually did not. He actually.
No. And I'm gonna. Let me say another thing on that. I'm gonna give both sides a slap on the wrist over this. I'm gonna slap the right for saying an executive order violates checks and balances and is unconstitutional. It's immoral, but it does neither of those things, because Congress and the Supreme Court both have the ability to override an executive order. Checks and balances not broken down because an executive order gets passed. It's broken down because the other two branches of government choose not to act. And it's not unconstitutional because that power is actually fully constitutional because it's part of the check and balance system. The ethics aside, but it's not, we run to, because I don't like it, it's unconstitutional. Bullshit. Stick to the rule book, the right rule book. Now as for the left, you pass all the shit you want. It's not going to do shit. And everything they've proposed wouldn't have prevented the tragedies that are...
It wouldn't affect the border, but it would have been immediately legally challenged and then undermined. I mean, that's the point of the checks and balances. You don't even have to move for a legislature to undo it. All it takes is, a stay from the judicial branch, and it's over.
Yeah.
But
like I said, both the court and Congress could stop that in a second if they wanted to.
No, the thing I had is that he moved to, and I don't remember the number. I want to say $4 billion. Maybe I'm wrong. For an investigation fee. And to me, my thing is like, dude, use that freaking money. We don't need an investigation in semi-automatic rifles. Are we for real on this? I mean, come on. Let's use that money. Maybe give it to the schools to beef up security.
I guess everybody's forgotten that during this administration, we funded a committee to investigate committees to find out that investigations and funding committees was counterproductive and a waste of funds.
Yeah.
But we still do that.
Anti-gun. Yeah, so anti-gun. I own firearms. Everybody's watching on YouTube knows. I mean, I've showed my AR-15, my Savage 10FPs.
You know what's really funny? I only own 2 weapons, neither of which are in my possession at this time. They're stored where I use them with the people I use them with. They're used for hunting. And I have a really interesting stance on firearms. The reality is, I personally tend to lean towards not wanting one for personal protection. A, because I'm more lethal with a bow, and B, I'd rather not be put in the position to kill somebody, but I'll bludgeon the bejesus out of you, which is really stupid under our legal system, because I'd actually fare better if I shot them and they died rather than wound the shit out of them.
We actually have our death rate. It's interesting. Our death rates for firearms. I watched this, but it's 2008.
Oh, it's really low, and to be
2008 statistics. We actually have the ability of fixing people that are shot. It was like this doctor. I watched this. It was a presentation. It was he had an accent. I want to say maybe a German doctor that was doing a presentation. But this was 2008. statistics, which really haven't changed. Most shootings, like Virginia Tech and all that, are done with pistols, and everybody's on this. Here's my beef. This is just my beef. Okay, assault rifle. What the hell is an assault rifle? I don't even know what the hell people are talking about with assault rifle, other than okay, before everybody goes, Mr. Ben, I get what the media wants to call it, all right? But there is nothing that a AR-15 that I can't do with a Mini 14, which is not an AR-15.
I know.
Or a Benelli hunting rifle.
I agree with you, but you're about to get into the thick of the issue that I was about to get at, which is the majority of people were not raised around firearms. They do not know firearms, and they are fairly ignorant in this topic, and they don't realize. I mean, the reality is most people who are raised around firearms and use them responsibly kind of chuckle at the idea of, okay, so you're going to limit my clip size. I'm like, you know what? If you can't get it in 2 shots, you're doing something wrong anyways. It's the main limitation of a clip size is for different limitations.
The guy, my wife was, it was pretty scary. It would happen in Connecticut. And the thing of it is this guy was methodical, well planned. He even was so planned enough that he knew how to properly dispose of his hard drive and his computer, which means he planned this out. A 30-round magazine would have not stopped. This guy was trained. And let me tell you, anybody, most of the time when I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't even load it up at 30 rounds. Lots of jams. You can even talk to troops, even with the M4s. When we stack them to full capacity, we usually run into problems.
Well, no, that's the thing. When you are firing an auto weapon with a high number of clips, with very few exceptions, eventually, if you don't let it cool down enough, and like you say, you find that optimum sweet spot, which is usually less than capacity, where the reloads are a cooldown period to keep it working well.
Well, it's not even the heat that I'm worried. It's the springs and the type of ammunition that are mostly for these double feeds and jams. But for say like a 30-round, like in Texas, we have a hog problem. And so does like in other states. I think Florida is beginning to get one.
But they eat well.
States like go out and kill these things because they're destroying Mother Nature. Lots of hogs, wild boar, okay? Lots of them. So in Texas and I think in other states, you go airborne in a helicopter because you're not trucking out there. And you can take a Mini 14 or a Benelli, anything, but they take usually large capacity magazines because it's like hell wanting to change this craft out in the helicopter, shooting these damn things to try to control their population. And the thing of it is that when it comes to a killer who's methodically planning, which happens to be most mass shootings that we've had recently.
A mass shooting is not the reaction of, oh, I happen to have a firearm on me, and I happen to go postal this second and just randomly shoot a bunch of people. A mass shooting is, I snapped, and instead of exploding, I implode, and I methodically go off somewhere and plan my snappiness.
And what's to say, like, let's get to the drawer of this thing. My real big problem with this is that, what the hell is the point of banning an AR-15? Or even calling it an assault weapon? Yes, Armalite originally designed what, Armalite went out of business. Actually, they sold to Colt. So Colt makes 2 divisions back in the 1960s, one for the military and one for civilians. Well, Mr. Britt, see, that's an assault rifle because it was originally military. No, it's not. When I was in the Marine Corps, I could fire automatic rounds on a select fire basis. If I were to buy an AR-15 right now, a bullet comes out as fast as I can pull the trigger. Same thing that I can do with the Benelli or Mini 14, with my pistols, whatever. As fast and as more that I can practice, bullets will come out at a cyclic rate as I can fire with my feet.
But the other thing you're getting at is if they institute bans on certain models because they've quote-unquote classified them as a certain class, I guarantee you what the reaction of them...
Let's go over it. A collapsible stock, really. There are many hunting rifles that have, and by the way, the AR-15 is really become popular since the original assault weapon ban and is widely used in hunting, by the way. And AR-15s truly can actually fire 308s and 223s. So you can use the bigger rounds, and I see them all the time being used. The predominant favoritism that came from the AR-15 is its modularity to suit different sizes of people. The collapsible stock, for instance, they said made it more deadly. A collapsible stock does not help someone pull the trigger faster. But what it can do is it lets you say, hey, this size stock, you know, let's just take like an old, whatever, Remington, whatever. Pick your model, whatever, more, whatever, right? You have usually these fixed stocks, whatever. But they began to, even with technology, you get different stock sizes, right? So you would still buy the model size stock you wanted. But on this instance, a collapsible stock means you have positions to which you say, it can hit my shoulder from here, or it can, you know, go all the way short if I have shorter arms. Which is why the AR-15 actually became very popular with women, i.e. you can find many pink versions of the AR-15 out there, because they could actually size it and make it even smaller and compact for women. Not a folding stock. Now the 1994 ban also attacked folding stocks. What's a folding stock? A folding stock is the part that, you know, your normal stock would reach to your shoulder from the traditional grip of your trigger hand. You could fold from that, the trigger hand being the fulcrum and the point of folding, would fold that stock. The only thing I would say that would do, it was to help make a rifle more concealable. An AR-15's collapsible stock is not going to help with concealability. It doesn't collapse as much as a folding stock would. The other thing that the 1994 assault ban attacked was the bayonet lug. Are these people for real? Would you name one mass shooting where the guy had a bayonet attached to it? I mean, most buyers and AR-15s could give a shit about a bayonet lug on the guy's damn rifle. Would somebody explain to me how this helps improve the cyclic rate of someone pulling the trigger?
If we can save one person.
Please explain this to me. Flash suppressors. Well, let's talk about flash suppressors. Flash suppressors originally happened with gas impingement firearms. What does that mean? Well, when you have a semi-automatic weapon, the bolt needs to go. You pull the trigger, and the bolt needs to go back to accept another bolt. You can do that with a piston. You can do that with gas, and we have other piston would cover most of the mechanical. All right. To get that receiver, the bolt, to go back to accept another cartridge to go in, you need some sort of force other than like with a lever action or a bolt action, something that would auto assist, right? We use the gas or the explosion of the cartridge that pushes the bullet, you know, out to the gun thing, out the cartridge and all that. So the gas is going down the barrel. And you have valve usually towards the end of the barrel that accepts the feed of this gas and directs that gas through a very thin tube above the main firing barrel back to the bolt, which usually has a receiving end for these gases. To then, since the pressure of that gas is enough, it pushes the bolt back, and another round cartridge is able to go into the bolt. And we call this gas impingement. It makes the bolt very dirty. It also heats up the back, the whole bolt and sensitive parts. This is an argument that people give in gas impingement versus piston firing.
You can make that argument forever, which we're not going to do today.
Just help control that gas. It does not make the person improve their cyclic rate of firing bullets out of that gun. It is a part, a main part of preventing gas blowback on certain designs of weapons. And its original conception was to prevent gas blinding back in the day. So to real quick cover the gas impingement versus piston, it still uses the gas. The piston still uses the gas from the cartridge escaping, but it goes through a valve at the front of the firearm, which this gas is then used to move a very long piston. A short piston that moves a long piston, if you will. That then this piston pushes, physically, a mechanical part, pushes the bolt back to receive each cartridge. Now, that doesn't make it more deadly. There's no way in hell that it just, because you have a way of doing something automatic, not, I mean, set, like automatic to push the bolt back. We're not talking about automatic machine guns. And AR-15s are not machine guns. They're not at all. And the thing of it is that most people don't even know that machine guns were banned for sale by dealers back in 1986 by Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan just, I know all these people that are trying to say, oh, Ronald Reagan was such a gun control. He was not. He actually wanted to regulate machine guns. And he did. In 1986, you had like the whole NFA type class weapons. Now, machine guns still exist and people can still buy them, but they are all prior 1986. They are all fingerprinted and they are all registered in the federal database. My thing of it is that if we already do that already, we haven't had a mass shooting with a machine gun yet. I don't see a problem so long as you keep the current laws, you know, that you get fingerprinted, you're in a federal database, that, you know, at least some people they're expensive as hell, these automatic weapons.
Well, they're dang near collector's items, and they're not exactly practical.
Yeah, I mean, and besides, a machine gun is not made necessarily for accuracy as it is for suppressing fire. But we can get off machine guns. That the thing of it is that a machine gun, I would say, is an assault rifle. That I would be willing to say its whole intent is suppressive deadly fire, right?
Yeah.
Instead of an AR-15 is it's just you can make it look mean and make it look friendly, but because you can make it look mean doesn't actually change the mechanics of it versus any other semiotic hunting rifle. And you know, they come in camouflage, they can come in pink, they can come in black. Yeah, you can buy scopes and all this other crap.
Well, yeah, but it's still what you're getting at around and around is this is complete and total other news for most people. I mean, the reality is, I am much more concerned of a well-trained person with a screw loose, for lack of a better word. And I hate to use that word because mental illness does not mean you're going to suddenly go blow up a school. But the reality is, I don't need any of this shit to go do a Columbine. The reality is, I could do a Columbine with a 9mm. I could have.
Was done with 2 pistols.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't need an oh dear God weapon. I need the will and accuracy.
Well, that's my point. It's not as much an oh dear God weapon. I mean, look at Virginia Tech, for instance.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? If I can't get access to a gun, I can think of a dozen other things I could do that would be just as effective.
Well, let's take a look at Great Britain. They say guns have been banned. Great Britain, that I have historically done, and please, those that are pro gun control and all this other stuff, you know, look it up and feel free to comment. As far as I can tell, Great Britain has always had less total murders than the United States. Okay.
They have less people.
Well, proportionately.
Okay.
Even percentage-wise. Now, now, I know that in their Victorian periods they may have had spikes, but I just want to say on the average. Now, Great Britain has a gun ban, and we have plenty of guns. The FBI will verify for you that we have always been on a downward trend for about the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Well, but there's a number of people who would like the U.S. to do what Great Britain did, which was basically go out and take everybody's guns and destroy them.
People can follow this. People can follow this. Great Britain instituted a gun ban. Why is their homicide rates up? Even with a gun ban. That just means perpetrators are moving to a different type of weapon, and homicides are still are climbing. Okay, so we have all these guns in our population, and even just look it up. Like I said, please, go look it up. FBI gives all this stuff. You know, our trend has been going downwards, and Great Britain's is going upwards. Now, like I said, we've always had a total number larger of homicides than Great Britain. But explain to me the logic, if you can follow. How is it that homicide rates go up and firearms are banned? So you're saying to me,
and nobody from across the pond take this as an insult. I'm not saying this is inherently anyone's fault or anything, but I would suggest it has more to do with the fact of we have more armed space over here. The UK is more densely populated, hence more stress, more just dynamics of the environment of human interactivity.
You go to California, it's one massive big city from freaking San Diego all the way up to.
Well, yeah, I know, but as a rule for the U.S. as a whole, that's not exactly the case yet. We're not that densely populated yet.
Yeah, England has lots of open territory. My point of it is that banning the gun is not the issue. If you got anything out of it logically, it would say that the variable, i.e. gun, is not part of the equation of the homicide rates. In other words, banning them or not banning them should not be the argument. You are just changing a type of killing.
Okay, but let's be honest about what this is. This is an easy solution that isn't a solution, but looks and sounds great. It will provide no solutions and no thoughts. It's just, oh, we did something, therefore the problem magically goes away.
Yeah, but now let's talk about what President Obama did in the executive orders. A memorandum to require federal agencies to make relevant data available to federal background check system.
Well, as I understand it, he hasn't signed these yet, has he?
Yeah, address unnecessary legal barriers.
When did he sign it?
No problem when government breaks down its stupid bureaucracies. I really like that one because us programmers like what is like a database. I mean, if the government already has, now obtaining that information from you in terms of privacy is a very different argument. What I'm saying is that if the information is already there, why is government making it so hard on itself to move its own known information around, which is just crazy.
It's because some states don't want people to do things like New York City did.
Not state level, federal government comes time.
Okay.
And it says improves. See, here it's very accurate. Improves incentives for states to share information, which means that's not going to make them share. It's just improving incentives, probably more money in their budgets, which means the states that are negative, not Texas, but probably California, which is in the red, would probably sign up for something like that to get more revenue to help them get into the black. Direct the Attorney General to review.
Well, okay, but you say that, but I will tell you point blank, how programs like that ultimately evolve is in the same way the Federal Highway Fund evolved to ultimately eradicate 18-age beer. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think. I mean, look, I've seen states directly not participate with many federal programs. I mean, so it's just. Now, this, he directs the Attorney General to review categories of individuals prohibited from having a gun to make sure dangerous people are not slipping through the. Hey, that's enforcing the law. In other words, what does that statement say? Enforce the existing laws. Why aren't we enforcing the existing laws? Perfectly, no problem with that. Proposed rulemaking to give law enforcement the ability to run full background check on an individual before returning a seized gun. Seized guns are usually stolen property, so. The problem is even with that, like some states have registration. In Texas, registration doesn't really exist, and most states registration doesn't exist. And registration is really only used when a gun is stolen, so that it could be
recovered.
If you wanted to claim it's your firearm, so to speak, that it got stolen. Publish a letter from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives to federally licensed gun dealers to provide guidance on how to run background checks. That's existing shit, essentially. That doesn't really change any laws. Launch a national safe and responsible gun ownership campaign. That's part and parcel my problem for the money. This investigation and stuff, which I think, since we're already having debt problems, Obama, I think that I understand, that we don't need to spend. We have tons and tons of gun safety courses out there that are very cheap that we don't need.
Actually, this really is a case of the federal budget doubling something that the majority of the states are doing anyways. Because in order to get a hunter's safety permit or to get a concealed weapons permit, you are already required to do basic safety courses in all 50 states.
Here it is. Here's another money list. Review safety students for gun locks and gun safes. They are already being regulated. We don't need to spend any more money on things that are already have a set standard.
Well, but if you spend it once, why not spend it twice? And third time's the charm, right?
Issue a presidential memorandum to require federal law enforcement to trace guns recovered from criminal investigations. Well, if the FBI is not doing that already, and this, remember, it said federal law enforcement. That's FBI.
Yeah.
If they're already doing that, I honestly don't understand what's happening.
Actually, I think the way that one's supposed to work out is, again, a redoubling of efforts. It's basically requiring the FBI to trace...
I think a lot of this is to make Obama look good.
Yeah.
Just restating shit that's already out there, essentially. He nominated a new ATF director. See, stolen guns, none of this affects Connecticut. See, if anybody had 2 cents and realized most of that doesn't even affect the Connecticut thing. Which is my problem with the gun control directive, is that you're jumping on this out of spite, even though if we were to logically look at what went wrong with Connecticut, and to really solve it, not to stop it, perhaps stop that, most of the shit that doesn't even address it. Which means you're attacking this out of spite, or for your other political agendas. Which, that's fine, you can have a political agenda.
It's political grandstanding, it is what it is.
Right, you can debate this belief and other things. But so much, when they go back, like I watched this guy on CNN, it's like you're jumping around and you're not being consistent on your argument because you constantly go back to Connecticut. If your main argument is saying, all right, we're excluding Connecticut, what happened, but I just don't like guns out in the population, it's a very different thing. Don't go back and start trying to appeal on things that are non sequitur. Is my problem.
Yes, but I can't get the public beyond the idea of this this tolerating other people having rights is a bad idea if I don't put the dead children in front of them.
Right. Now here's commit to finalizing mental health parity regulation. That I want to actually read into more. That's my community. I program for psychiatric hospitals, and I can tell you, it is a son of a bitch to get. Man, and I know because there's lots of abuses in the psychiatric crap in the 70s. And Ronald Reagan, funny enough, gets blamed most of this, even though it wasn't him.
Happened under his watch, it's him.
Yeah, he presided over a lot of it, but man, patients' rights weren't, and rightfully so. There was lots of abuses that happened in psychiatric medicine that spawned a tremendous fight for patients' rights when it came to mental illness. And today, though, I really think that we can reevaluate the mission in terms of, although, you know what, I still think the GAF score, it's a function-based thing, and I'm sorry, I'm talking probably above logic, is that, Access 5, these are things, you have to be, even though it's like a function, a score, like a psychiatric evaluation on the mix of things, but, man, I would safely say that hospitals would not go back and revert back to the problems and the patient abuses that occurred in the 70s with the regulations we have in place today that would have to be adhered to in these facilities.
Well, the reality was the situation that had been created was without trial or due process or anything. If you wanted somebody out of the way, it really was possible as long as you had a doctor on your side. Because it was literally a matter of opinion of who should and shouldn't, which was a system primed for abuse, unfortunately.
The rights already happened from those already committed. The question that you bring up right now is right. Who decides to do, because it is extremely difficult to commit a person permanently. And
in my opinion, it should be, because it's such a subjective thing. And I mean, the reality is, everybody's a little batshit crazy. My question of whether you should be locked away isn't are you batshit crazy, it's are you a flavor of batshit crazy that either makes you a danger to the society around you or incapable of meshing with the society around you to a point that you will be.
It is a tough. It is.
It's not, and the reality, a good example of it is, and I hate to pull this up, is something like Miracle on 34th Street, and that's a really bad example to pull out. But the reality is, I could give a shit if you see little invisible pink things that aren't there, as long as you're not listening to the voices they're telling you to kill me and string my dog. I don't care that you see them and hear them. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Well. And see, the thing of it is that that's why the prison systems have absorbed most of the psychiatric problems that become a permanent basis, i.e., they committed a criminal act that made it a permanent basis. And that's what that's actually what I was talking about with the GAF score. GAF score is pretty much the scale from which admittance starts. It's a function scale. And the thing of it is that while I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have the same. Well, I'm sure. I don't want to say for sure. I'm sure we wouldn't have the same abuses. The thing of it is to me, a permanent committing someone to a hospital is man,
in my opinion, and I know it has to happen, and I say this the same for people we wind up throwing in prison for life. While I understand the need for it, every instance of it, I look upon it as a failure of us out here, a failure of our society, that we failed that individual in some way.
And see, the thing of it is that, and let me, by the way, to be separate, I don't think mental health, even if we were, would have maybe stopping in Connecticut. I'm just saying it's intriguing that mental health came into these executive orders based upon this gun thing.
Do you know why? Do you probably want to know why that is? Do you know what the particulars of what set the Connecticut guy postal are?
Well, I heard that the mother was going to commit.
Yeah, which basically means A, anything having to do with mental health wouldn't have prevented that incident.
Right.
And B, it might, and this is the really scary thing if you actually analyze the particulars of the situation, for a lot of people, that's a button because they're afraid of abuse or other things. It might increase incidents like that if it's done unduly.
The only thing that would have stopped the Connecticut shooter is armed personnel in the school. I went to school with armed personnel, by the way. That's why I didn't understand. To me, especially my high school, we had officers, sheriffs.
This is one of the things on which you and I are going to disagree. Inherently, I'm not opposed to armed people in the school. However, the majority of schools are too much like a prison compound as it is, and
officers have to make it. But you mean by look and feel?
Yeah, it's not a center of education. It really is one step from a prison compound with so many educational institutions these days. And the reality is,
I'm willing to take the opportunity cost of making the school look more like a resort, so I can put an officer in it to satisfy your concerns of it looking like a prison.
Well, it's not just the look; it's the feel, it's the bureaucracy. It's not an environment conducive to education. It's an environment that more mirrors a prison. Sit down, shut up, and if you break the rules, you'll be punished.
Do a security. I mean, the officers there never got in my way. They never made me feel. I'm just saying that had the armed personnel that there, we'd have a variable. Now people say, oh, let's ban the guns, and even if it saves one life. Really? Okay, so let's say the opportunity cost that you're giving up is that a shooter could go from an AR-15 to, let's say, a Mossberg, and then use double-up Bach and probably kill more people with a shotgun, especially in close quarters. Like, one thing that I'm afraid of in terms of schools that you're talking about prison systems is that a lot of these schools have one door for entry and exit. What happens if there's a fire and the shooter like that? Where are the kids going to go? In the back closets and stuff like that? I mean, it's horrid to think that you really can't run. If the guy decided to walk all the way to the closet...
No, that's the thing. This is going to sound really disturbing, but keep in mind I was in high school around the Columbine time. And around the time that was going on, everybody was concerned, me and 6 people, after school hours, went and walked around the school. And as near as we could figure, and we are damn fucking lucky being the group we were and all the other shit that nobody caught us doing this, because they would have been convinced we were planning a Columbine. But we were basically just going around being the analytical people we are, looking at it from a security standpoint. And we realized if this happened in our high school, we all were gonna die, because like you're saying, well, it's like, well, this is the door we should run out of, but it's chained, and the only person who has the key isn't here 90% of the time. We can't get through that window. We can't. It's like we basically realized we were in a death trap.
Yeah, see, I'm willing to say that I'm willing to put the tax dollars that we're spending frivolously on stupid investigation committees to help schools from a federal point of view, on federal programs in states, to help put guards in schools, is an opportunity, as a better opportunity cost than one that you would think you're going to achieve in banning the weapons.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, how many kids wind up tardy because they don't have time to get through that bottleneck door? I mean,
Columbine occurred while we had the first assault weapon ban.
I know.
So the thing of it is I'm willing to put my opportunity cost at better, because the idea is to save, especially kids' lives in school. So I'm willing to put my opportunity cost out. Could the guy have shot the guard? Probably. He might have been able to. But I'm willing to say that we have a better variable chance with a security guard armed protecting the kids versus banning a type of firearm to prevent that kind of shooting any day. So, because I love it how and the people who debate these guys on the media never catch that. Well, if it saves one life, really? Okay, this is when the opportunity cost comes up. You're willing to say, okay, this.
No, but I don't think it's that they don't catch it. I think it's that they're not willing to permit political suicide of actually pointing out the actual logistical craziness. Because what they've done in the political arena by stating that logical, rational, sane argument is say one child's life is worth nothing. I'm just telling you what that will be twisted into. And that's not what they're saying, but that's what, by the time it's done, that's what they'll have said.
Like my kids' school, they don't have walls. There's no doors in the classroom. There are like these it's like a large room, using cubicle walls. Mm-hmm. And you could literally just run from one end to the other without restriction.
It's not inherently a bad thing.
No, I think it's great. Actually, that's because when I went to school, there was really one door to some classrooms that we had. That it would have been a shooting nightmare if somebody decided to walk in. Where are the kids going to go? And that's what makes it atrocious.
Well, see, you used to be able to go out the windows, but now they're all barred or chained or caged, so they're really inaccessible.
Right. I mean, and I mean, the thing of it is, that's the horror of something. Somebody could own a .22 or whatever. If there is one point of entry and exit, it is going to be a nightmare scenario.
Well, and anybody who doubts this, I mean, look at your military strategy. This is not fable. It's not legend. There are military incidents where what you do to overcome a larger force is you create a bottleneck and you force them to fight you on something like a bridge or so forth. You force the singular bottlenecked, controlled directional, and boom, it is literally a fish in a barrel phenomenon. It doesn't really matter what the weapon is.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's what makes...
I mean, literally, one can take out 500 under those conditions.
Sure. There's only one door and one exit, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's my thing, was to explain what is assault and all this. I mean, it doesn't matter how mean you make a weapon. It doesn't affect the mechanics.
Really, all it affects is the plan.
How cool the guy wants to look, essentially. It's like Nike wanting to make combat boots, for fuck's sake. Which they might or might not be able to. I have to check. It's just ridiculous to me. You can use... To me, a shotgun is far more devastating in that scenario.
Well, that's because you and I have hunted, though. I mean, the reality is anybody who's hunted will tell you, you know what, a shotgun's pretty damn useful.
God, can you imagine? And it's just you. To me.
But you know what? We've done bans like that too. Civilians cannot buy the 9-round assault shotguns. I mean, we're not allowed.
Before ban had pistol grips. Would someone please explain to me how a grip over the thumb stock versus gripping a pistol increases cyclic rate?
Actually, it would decrease accuracy largely.
This is insane. And what was the other thing? Was flash suppressors, bayonet lugs, collapsible stocks. And 30 and rounds larger or magazines larger than 10. Well, obviously that didn't hurt Columbine. Like I said, if they plan it, a magazine capacity doesn't help. And quite frankly, in my experience in the military has always been maxed out magazines cause problems. So
yeah. Well, again, but you're looking at this from a rational, sane, mechanical point of addressing the actual problem, not from the how does it look, how is it ran in the political arena, and what is the perception. And that's the real problem. We're dealing with perception rather than reality. And the perception is something is useful.
I think people see a firearm and they think it's a machine gun. Hell no, we haven't had a machine gun private sales since 1986. I mean, an owner can sell it to the owner, and here's what's happened. The NFA.
No, but you know what's the real problem here is it's that perception, but it's also ignorance, and it's more the Yahoo than the actual person who knows jack shit. But people are under the false impression that to do damage with a gun, you need to fire off hundreds of rounds. That you need like large caliber and go. It's just no. They don't get it. I got that when I was 17, playing Time Crisis. Using the skill sets I learned hunting, just aim, point, and I'm just clearing rounds left and right with no autofile and no something, basically doing single shots. They're like, God, what the hell, man? I'm like, what? It's like, it's like everybody else is sitting there playing the game, firing 12 shots for every one shot I take, and it's just, they don't get it. They really don't. I guess it's a skill that's lapsed in our society, and people are very ignorant.
Gun people are so fearful of it, I think that...
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't understand the tool. They're just afraid of it.
Right, and want it gone altogether if they could.
Yeah. But I will tell you point blank, their fear of it will not put an end to it. I mean, the reality is, if I want a gun, even if it's illegal as hell, you give me a metal shop, I'll have one by the end of the day.
Hey, if you want to talk about damage and not in non-survival rates, I mean, let's use a Remington 7. What were they? 720s. I forget, like 721, 22, or something like that. For that round, you're not. I don't think you're coming back from that, that size round. So, and those are bolt actions.
Yeah.
What is that? What do they fire? I don't remember.
Never having had a Remington, I don't actually know that stuff off the top of. I'm trying to remember. I know the one you're talking about.
But man, it's like, seriously. And that's the part that I get upset about. It immediately became something not addressing the problem that actually happened at Connecticut. I would like to look at the logistics of the school, its rooms configuration.
Well, but keep in mind, most of these, a good number of the schools are decades old, and the logistics of room configuration, you're talking about demolishing and building new schools, which is something we really need to do in a lot of places anyways, but we're not going to do it. If we haven't done it for the sake of educating kids, we're not going to do it for the sake of political grandstanding. I'm just being honest, That's... And I'll tell you another thing. If we ever started building schools looking at them from an assault shooting perspective, I guarantee you what would happen someday is some kid would go postal and look through the records of all the tactics that were considered when building the school and find the ones that budgetary purposes made them cut out that would be successful. And then it would come to the media light that the kid got the plan to attack the school from the people who built the school. You tell me that wouldn't happen. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that wouldn't be the inevitable result of that in our society.
For what? Repeat the sentence.
Okay, you're talking about building schools with this in mind. That means you have to basically.
No, but if fires or any type of disaster,
okay.
God have one more than ability to exit and exit rapidly. Funneling, even in a panic where kids need to run. Let's say there's something terrible. A train derailed and there's chemicals and they're coming and you have minutes. I mean, you get injured when you're funneled that much. It should be the availability to be able to get out and not run.
Well, they do that with fire drills and so on and so forth. But if you ever want to see just how bottlenecked a school is, watch a fire drill and watch how the bottleneck happens at every one of these locked doors because of the delay in the person with the key getting there. And this is going to make me sound like a sociopath, but if I was one of these crazy people planning an assault on a school, I'll tell you the first thing I'd do would be take out the people with the keys so nobody can get out, even if the panic's triggered.
Yeah, isn't that sad? Everything's so barricaded and
because everybody in the school knows who has the keys.
I think my personal opinion in CQB like that, where you don't care, I mean, a senseless act that this son of a bitch did, shotguns would have probably been far more damaging in my opinion.
Yeah. They're not as cool though.
Not as cool looking.
They're not the eye shot, as it were.
Yeah, because I mean I own a Mossberg 500. Let me tell you, I put build up buckshot in there. That's got 9 big ass pellets in that son of a bitch.
Honestly, my favorite shotgun isn't made anymore.
Even birdshot, close range, people think that stuff doesn't have penetrating power.
No, you know what? At close range, 9s, which are used for aiming and practice, will do plenty of damage.
Alright, it's just, we know by logic that removing the gun is not going to help because it hasn't helped England's homicide rates when they banned it. So, it would devastate me, like what happened in Houston recently that never makes federal news. A 15-year-old was able to get to their father's rifle and stop a home invasion and shot the guy dead. That happens actually a lot of times. You can look at it. You can just look it up. There's a website also called Gun Saves Lives that goes to all these local news stories where children, 12, 15 years old, sometimes younger, one of them even used a 22, stopped a home invasion. It would hurt me to death to know. And one of them the one that stopped the 15-year-old that stopped the home invasion used an AR-15 to stop the home invasion. It would just kill me to know that we would remove firearms that could have prevented an assault, a rape.
Well, to be dead honest, that was the thing. Did you ever see the movie Knight Rider? I think it was Knight Rider 2000 or whatever, like the really bad sequel to the Knight Rider series. But they were making fun of the fact, basically that scenario. In that fictitious world, the cops were only allowed to carry non-lethal, basically taser or sedate. I forget what they were, but they weren't allowed to carry guns. They were carrying something else. And criminals had guns. So you're sending the good guy out there with their hands tied behind their back, and the bad guy's trying to kill him, and they can't use equal force back because that's bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, if someone's listening to this whole show, they'd understand what I'm saying is the AR-15 is not any more deadly. Certainly less deadly than shotgun and CQB.
Well, and I'll tell you point blank, all that would happen there is the one that you're still allowed to get that is as deadly. If somebody has the intention of doing harm in the way that people are so afraid of, well, everything they could possibly need is still going to be available to them in society.
Right. Now, if someone's asking me, okay, well, what am I? Look, I actually don't have an issue with the background check, to be honest with you. I don't.
My only issue with background checks, I have nothing wrong with regulation, and I don't consider it unconstitutional because it says a well-regulated militia. My only thing is I believe it is the domain of the states to handle that. Now, rather the states choose to then share that information with the Fed in a way that they feel is mutually beneficial to them in society, that's a different matter, but it should be the dominion of the states to make those decisions for themselves. It's the rules we agreed on with the Second and 10th Amendment.
Right, and let me explain the Second Amendment, because people don't understand how to read it. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of the state.
Right.
Now, that's end of fragment 1, because that's state level. And in that term, like if somebody were to have an automatic weapon, they would be fingerprinted. But you're federally fingerprinted now. The ones that existed before 1986, you would be regulated, and it was a well-regulated militia, right? Then it's the right, and then this is a different fragment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Name me one other amendment that actually has the words "shall not be infringed" in it. Because I can't think of
using those exact words. No, it's implied in several.
That means you cannot infringe this shit. It is
well, not without making another amendment to overdo that amendment, which we can do.
Right. Well, but that would void the Second Amendment.
Exactly, or at least in part void it.
I mean, that's the text. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Okay, that's one fragment. Then the right of the people to keep and bear arms, both of those shall not be infringed.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and I agree with it, and I actually agree with it being done by the states, because the reality is what makes sense to California, New York, Texas, Washington, Colorado, they're different states, different rules, different people. Different.
Yeah, and the thing of it is that, go ahead,
well, no, that's just what I was getting at, which is it makes sense for it to be done at the more local level. Now, the reality is we have a legal system and a justice system where there is local and federal intercooperation to get the general means and ends done. But we're supposed to be a nation of laws, and so basically you can create the ability for the states to intercooperate, but it needs to be voluntary and it needs to be their choice. The incentives I don't disagree with, as long as they're not abused and turned into, well, okay, it's an incentive. Yeah, you're not required to back off, but if you continue to move forward, this knife's going in your heart. You know, but it's your choice.
Right. See, but for me, it's like I live. And I was talking about automatic machine guns, like for the railway. To me, the outright banning was a little overstep. If you wanted to like fingerprint like you do with the existing automatic weapons, and again, there's not been a mass shooting with an automatic weapon, but with an NFA weapon.
My only
stands for National Firearms Act. Go look it up in history, please. You know,
no. My only complaint with what you're talking about is that across the board.
But if you fall in a regulated militia where it is regulated at a state level to participate, you know, for ownership. I have a problem with the property in terms of, well, if you qualify for owning the property, okay, you know what I'm saying, and getting it. That's why I don't really have a problem with background check. Every firearm I've ever purchased, I went through a background check, and
I'm not going to go into particulars, but my guess is half the firearms on purchase were probably done illegally.
No. The one in Connecticut. No, oh, you can for. Well, let's get it straight. The majority of gun deaths in the United States are suicide, which I think all of us can safely say.
They'll figure out a way to do it anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I've worked in psychiatry programming long enough to program all of the Axis information to know. So that leaves remaining, which I think is around 44% of the shootings. So the Connecticut one, yeah, the mom firearm, and quite frankly, had no business teaching a son that she was going to go and commit. Shoot, you know.
My guess is she taught him before she decided to commit him.
Yeah, but lock him up, for fuck's sakes, if you were, where he wouldn't. I mean, I'd just throw it, keep the key with me or something. Especially if I was going to have my son committed. That'd be the first thing. Like, my son has a Marlin 795. It's a 22 long rifle. It's a beginner rifle. It's a low.
That's well, I'm not disagreeing with that. It's surprising because you're in Texas, and Texas doesn't allow them to actually do anything till they're 12, and your kid's not 12 yet.
No. Under parents, they can't buy. They can't buy, but they are allowed under parent supervision to shoot.
Okay.
And the thing of it is that, let's say that if I'm going to go commit myself, the first thing I'm going to do is shut down entire access to crap that could harm me as a parent if my kids are crazy. It kind of reminds me of the story that we heard. My wife told me that was a very sad story, and about a 7-year-old girl being adopted who is now 14-year-old, and the parents just adopted this girl out of the kindness of their heart, and are now fearing for their lives because they can't commit this girl, and she's crazy. Very violent, and they're afraid that they're not going to wake up one morning. Just from all the behavior and acts this girl they've adopted is done. And it's nothing against adoption or something. I'm just saying the circumstance of a parent having the fear that they've lost control of their child, that could commit harm to themselves or someone else.
I got news for you. Everybody loses control at some point.
Huh?
I got news for you. Everybody loses control of their child at some point.
Well, you understand what I'm doing. My point is that the first thing should have been done is locking up those firearms and denying access. Because that's certainly something I would have done. Immediately. And the mother, and sadly, many other innocent children's lives paid the price for that failure to do so, because I don't think any type of background check would have stopped that. Registering firearms actually is a misnomer too. Registering firearms doesn't help you solve anything, to be honest with you. All it just says is this gun belongs to Joe Schmuck.
To be dead honest, and this is my only concern with registering, and that is the information is not properly secured, and every so often on the case of political rant. No. Here, let me finish my point before you slap it off. Every so often, some yahoo will go and do things like they did in New York and publish the information. And the other thing is, and Red Dawn made fun of this, to be quite honest. It's like, oh, yes, go get these people. This is the people you want to go get. It's, Yeah, which means I treat that information as information that should be.
I'm glad you caught that little tidbit. That was cool.
Yeah, to me, it's information that should be platinum level secured.
But do you even need to have information? It doesn't stop a shooting.
No. It has nothing to do with stopping a shooting. And I'm not against the information being collected and databased and put together, because it's part of, like we said, the well-regulated militia. In fact, I wouldn't have.
If it's for an NFA firearm, that's different.
Well, no, and to be dead honest, I wouldn't have a problem with, since it's linked to the well-regulated militia, if it had, in the same way an 18-year-old has to agree to selective service to get the right to vote, as part of your lawful ownership of firearms, you're agreeing to the possible boomerang effect that goes with it, and hopes it never happens, and we hope never happens in our lifetime. Um, if we're really lucky, never happens at all. That wouldn't be unconstitutional at all. It's saying you're going to accept the responsibility that goes with having
because
this
you
tool.
are accepting responsibility. It's a great, great responsibility that I think so many people don't do. And the mother obviously failed. She did not have enough respect for the firearms that if you were legitimately going to commit someone, why the hell didn't you deny access to the firearms? To me, I'm mind-boggling. Something went wrong with that aspect. Damn, if I'm preparing to say, man, my child, sadly, I have to come to terms with it, needs to be committed. Geez, I have no business. I've changed locks, do something, get the firearms out of the house. Anything deadly, to be honest with you, not even firearms, anything deadly, I would be concerned about.
I got news for you. Most people don't know how to examine their house for deadly. I do have to pause this here because I gotta put a chop in. Okay, sorry about that.
No, I just, to me, it's my wife and I were honestly shaken. And my wife emotionally was ready to go get the kids out of school after that. And
you know what? Honestly,
let me tell you,
and I'm speaking out my ass here because I don't.
The horror that happened there.
Oh no, I understand, and I'm sure this struck closer to you because you have kids, and I'm probably speaking out my ass here because I don't have them yet and they're not real, although I hope to someday. But my mentality on things like this is the best defense that I can give any children I would have would be education and incentivizing them for common sense. So if they ever find themselves in that situation, they will be calm, they will be thinking analytically, and if there is a solution, they will be searching for it and looking for it. They will be as armed as they can be.
Exactly. Yeah. See, it's like, I know there was a panic of parents buying armor to put it back. I mean, I know those are emotional responses to things. Look, to me, the single point of failure is the mother failing. I always resort to that because I don't understand a parent having an analysis of saying, I'm going to commit my son and not deny access to the firearms or harmful things if he's that crazy.
I don't forgive it, but I can understand it because there's the conflicting emotion of I've acknowledged in the same way a child has difficulty.
Are you saying that it's a type of denial that they don't want?
Yeah, in the same way a child who's being abused is trying to deal with the conflict of, but it's mommy. But it's like it's well documented in those cases too, where they do something fundamentally stupid because of the overriding instincts.
One of my mom's good friends did the exact same thing that you just did. She's a hardcore Democrat, but she and I actually get along very well because I'm not hardcore Republican like my mother is. So she and I, my mom's a dear friend and I enjoy, but she's old school Democrat. Her the last paragraph was really interesting because I explained to her about the AR-15. I just gave her something and said, look, the AR-15 is not an assault rifle. Here's why. Here's the things the 94 Vance said made it an assault rifle. You tell me if you think that makes it something more deadly and all that stuff. And so she was thankful for that information. But she goes on, and it's funny. She goes how this lady has a similar situation where I'll just say I'll use some of her words and kind of remove some personal information out. Okay, some personal information. She goes, I agree that the mental health issue needs to be addressed. The story I was sharing with you is about my friends in XX city. Their ex-wife would continually rescue their mentally ill child named A, no matter what kind of trouble that child would get into. If that child was committed, she would go there and try to get him released, no matter the circumstance, from this hospital. The mother was a school teacher with a master's degree, so she was well educated. These are my mom's French words.
But your child is your child.
I don't know. I'm making these specifics. And she goes, she just could not bear to separate from him. She's in her late 70s, and the son is still living with her. I think this happens often where one parent or another is in total denial. That's exactly along the lines of what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, because basically you have conflicting instincts, which it's a difficult thing for most humans to deal with, particularly when there's a personal stake in it.
Right, and so the thing of it is like, okay, so I'm sure there may be some, if we have some hardcore Democrats or progressives listening. Well, let's use government to find out if there's any mentally ill people in the
You know, that I'll be dead honest, that reality, and I hope we never do it. It scares the shit out of me, because I guarantee you what we'll do is we'll start taking toddlers and screening them for potentialities. And where that road ultimately leads is not a good place. The end result is say goodbye to Einstein, Edgar Allan Poe, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi. They won't exist in your society.
And see, my thing is to the gun controller guys on the variable that if you and I were to argue, and you're a diehard Democrat, it would come to, I guarantee you, an end result. At least one of your statements would be, well, at least it saves one life. And what you're saying at that point is an opportunity cost trade-off to try to achieve that. And the thing of it is that with as much government intervention that we even have with areas with lots of control, we have failures. Even with failures in government, where we have investigation congressional committees that investigate these failures, where we would have to admit numerically, if this is a variable, the shooting would still occur. And that the inverse happened, where you would even have and accept the opinion that it is acceptable to say, instead of going and paying all these tax dollars for something that we know could fail on one end of the spectrum, that yes, having armed guards in the schools could also not, I would admit, not prevent it, but it is less invasive, and I would bet you that your variable rate of success rate of preventing something like another terrible shooting like that would be successful in stopping that.
I will tell you the best defense, if you really want to work the actual.
All these government bans, which we've had a history of, that did not stop Columbine and things like that.
Well,
there's not enough control that you could exert, quite simply because there's not enough resources for you to try to dig in as much. There are automatic weapons they have been banned, heavily regulated since the 1930s and banned since for private sale.
Well, that happened largely because of World War I, in which we got an appreciation for what the hell these things are.
The National Firearms Act originally started in 1930, so or late 1930. I'm trying to remember my history. So they've always been those that have owned machine guns.
Yeah. World War I saw the beginning of it, and then as World War II progressed, it became increasingly obvious, just as like, holy fucking shit, fuck.
So, and the thing is, an AR-15 is not a machine gun. It can be made to look mean, but it does not affect its heartbeat. It is still a semi-automatic rifle, like any other hunting rifle that we were discussing before.
Oh yeah, but nobody needs a hunting rifle. We raise our food now.
Right. A flash suppressor does not change the shooter's ability to pull the trigger.
No. See, you're misunderstanding. The perception is a flash suppressor is a stealth thing. See, you can't see the gun. It's harder to see the gun in the dark because there's less muzzle flare. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that isn't the public perception on that.
But what it comes down to is we do need to save lives. We have to find a way, because like I just said, before. Britain's homicide rate is up.
Well, do you want to know what, in my opinion, is the true solution to working that problem? It's it's dealing with the sociological issues that wind up resulting in this, and when dealing with that fails, the mentality and the will of the average citizen is not one of panic or back off, but one of appropriate action to the out of control circumstances in front of them. The reality is, what is the biggest danger to these shootings and so on would be a non-panic reaction, in which the reaction of the students, the teachers, the son, the body, the system in which this is acting is hell no.
And gave her life. I mean, what a brave. They have a medal similar to Congressional Medal of Honor for military for civilians. I would hope the president would present that.
That's not politically grandstanding, though. Not the kind of political grandstanding.
Well, man, but she gave her life. Because you can present honors to the spouse. That teacher, what she did was so courageous. And I would hope that executive branch, because it usually has to come from them, would present the medal on her behalf to her husband, her next of kin. What a fan, man! This great human being to do that. It's something, because I'll tell you, it shakes you to the core to say, gosh damn, our schools are even vulnerable. But I was like, man, they didn't have, because when I went to school, like I said, I was so used to seeing police officers, and my first thing was like, did they take out the security? And then we're able to go into the school, because that's just how I guess I was raised. In Houston, especially when I went to high school, we had problems, I guess, and that's what maybe precipitated having police officers in my schools.
Well, but see, that's the thing. I've watched the reactions, and I've watched the educational system deteriorate and the environments deteriorate. And the reality is, I've seen the fundamental problems just being ignored. It's basically, let's just stack more things on the flawed foundation and ignore the real root causes and address the symptoms. And I'm like, this is not an efficient use of resources.
Elementary school actually has a gate around it, so you have to first get through the gate, which is monitored.
Yeah.
And then it has a gate for each hallway and the windows.
Like I said, it's more like a prison. They're more like a prison now. It's.
But many parents, and I tell you, probably my wife, would vote for having that much security if it meant that their kids could come home.
That's the thing, Bit. It's the false assumption that you get absolute security. It doesn't exist. And to quote your phrase, the opportunity cost of the environment you're creating there. It's the illusion of security at the expense of the loss of an ideal environment to what you're trying to accomplish there.
How much invasiveness from even the defensive posture of having security is too much on the other side of the spectrum. Versus just government intervention, private security, how much is too much, and all this other stuff, of course, because you don't want to have it in prison. But I can tell you,
Well, and I will tell you first point from somebody who's been in the security side, and you should know this as somebody who's served in the military. It's not the shit you're looking at; it's all the shit behind the shit you don't see. And tell me I'm wrong there. It should not be. It's particularly in a school. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there, but the excessive overtness of it is counterproductive. The reality is, in many communities, you have cops all over the damn place. There's the different psychological feel from seeing the squad car on your street versus the area being well secured. And on your street, the cop car there may be beneficial, but in the school, the gate, the barbed wire fence, I'm sorry, it's counterproductive to the exercise.
That's just my 2 cents, and I hope those that are more wanting for this really nonsensical ban of anything, I think would rethink the position, and we need to focus our emphasis really on wanting to save lives and getting solutions that work. And these executive orders, like that we went over, don't have much to do with it, to be honest with you.
You know what? I have that phrase from the American president going through my head. Congratulations, it only took you X years to pass a crime bill that has no possibility of preventing crime. Because that really is what these bans are. Congratulations, it only took a tragic school shooting for you to pass political grandstanding that has no possibility of preventing a tragic school shooting.
But you know what? It is frightening to me what possesses an individual to want to go kill innocent children, innocent lives anyway. You know, just blatantly. Like, you know, we had a shooting just today. No one was killed, but it turned out that it was a fight. So it wasn't a.
But we could have a whole nother conversation on the fact that on how much we're winding up I mean, got everything from the anti-bullying, which is a form of bullying, like reverse racism is really just another form of racism, to I mean, the reality is, if I take an honest look back and a true step back, I wouldn't stand a chance if I was born today. I wouldn't. I'd be thrown into our school system, and I would be locked up before I was 10. Or I'd do something, because I'm honest about the type of person I am. Instead, I'm out here, I'm thriving, I'm contributing to society, I run my own business, I'm employing people, you know, but I know if I went into that damn system, forget it. I would not be a productive member of society. I would either implode or explode or something. It's just not a good system. And that's the real fundamental problem. It's like putting a steam engine with no pressure valves and just waiting till it explodes. It's bad.
Shall we wrap it up?
Anything else to wrap on? I'm for wrapping if you are.
No, I'm good.
Okay. I see y'all again, and
hopefully next Tuesday.
We'll get back on a weekly schedule, figure out what we're doing for the year, and update y'all accordingly. Peace all.